I could be a stupid person.
Remember this?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country.
Yeah, Trump campaigned on being the real smart business guy. Nobody knows more about business. But really, after 6 bankruptcies, dozens of lawsuits, 34 felony convictions, and his current dilemma?
So the connection between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein isn't new news.
Well, this was inevitable.
Breaking news. The new jobs report and the president's tariffs are dragging down U.S. markets at this moment. The July jobs report you see right next to me, this just came out moments ago, and it's weaker than expected. You have just 73,000 jobs added last month. But more concerning, the numbers for the previous 2 months have just been revised down by more than 200,000. So this is not encouraging economic information, and it comes as the president's new tariff plan is impacting more than 60 trading partners, including some that have already cut trade deals or at least frameworks.
Look at the Dow right now. It is down more than 400 points. But at the same time, President Donald Trump put a steep tariff on global trading partners if they could not agree to trade deals with the United States. Now, back in April, the president declared Liberation Day. He promised higher tariffs would boost the U.S. economy. Trump imposed on-again, off-again deadlines for those deals, finally settling on today, August 1st.
So that's not good news, but why is it happening? Why is an economy that was recovering from the post-pandemic inflation and slight recession back in January when Biden handed it to Trump, why is it now in the shitter?
It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word.
Is it because of this man who has a doctorate in business and economics and is a professor of law while also chairman of the Federal Reserve? Or could it be this? So what's happening? Why have job numbers fallen like Trump's breast when he takes off his man bra? So here's the deal. Trump inherited an economy that was recovering from inflation, resulting in the $1 trillion we handed out during the pandemic. In a nutshell, supply was short because we weren't working and things weren't being made, and people were competing for items, driving up prices. It's not brain surgery. Demand exceeded supply and the prices went up.
The previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion, and now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers?
They cost Americans nothing.
But Trump fucked it up the way he fucks up everything. He threatened the world with tariffs and then pledged to deport every single of the approximately 11 million undocumented people in the U.S. But he could have done it by saying, we want to get the undocumented people who are criminals and aren't working. But instead, he said, I'm going to deport them all because they're rapists and murderers. Remember?
They're rapists.
So combine those two, inflation and deportation, and you get what we're experiencing right now, a shit show for the ages.
By the way, what happens what does happen when you put tariffs on goods and you stop immigration and force migrants to leave in terms of wages?
Unless you're Hamilton, I'm kind of against it.
Isn't that going to be inflationary?
Of course. Of course.
Is it a one-time, though, and then you sort of
I don't know. I mean, when you see tariffs like that, obviously you think about.
So before I allow Fox News to burrow their nose up Trump's ass, let's start with inflation and go over the role of the Fed in all of this. A tariff is a tax, and when Trump started attacking the world with 25 to 50 to 100 to 125% tariffs on our trading partners without any rhyme or reason, well, they responded like you might expect.
Go fuck yourself.
Okay, so you understand, Trump is lying when he says the countries we place a tariff on will eat the cost and not pass it on to the consumer, because it's a tax and they will pass it on to you.
Who pays the tariffs? The Chinese government pays the tariff. No, they don't. Yes, they do.
I want to say, I'm an importer and an exporter for 20 years.
Okay.
When a product comes into the U.S., there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow U.S. law and pay the tariff. I'm an American citizen, I'm an American taxpayer. I pay that tariff to the U.S. government, and that increase in the cost of the product, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
And what about our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here?
So tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. So, for example, you might say, you want to sell us your beans, right?
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn. But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer.
Don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government?
You're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. But what I can absolutely assure you is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us.
And when Trump says we have brought in $100 billion in tariff revenue, that means you paid $100 billion more for the same products that last year were cheaper, because it's, everybody, a tax.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
So here in the U.S., the prices go up, and fewer people in the U.S. have money to buy things here in the U.S., so those companies making those products have to lay off workers so they can stay in business. And when people who are laid off don't have money to buy things, more businesses are affected. They lay off people. Well, you see how this spirals down, right?
The president came out swinging overnight, hitting more than 60 countries with rates as high as 41% for their imports. Trump announced those tariffs will take effect in 7 days, and CBS News has learned that's to give customs officials enough time to implement the new rates. But higher tariffs for our neighbors to the north take effect immediately. Trump raised Canada's tariffs from 25% to 35%. It's important to note goods covered by a previous trade agreement are exempt, but the increased rates will have an impact on lumber, steel, aluminum, and auto imports. The president accused Canada of not addressing the flow of the drug fentanyl into the U.S.
All right, that shit about fentanyl coming in through Canada, Trump made it all up. Less than 0.1% of fentanyl comes through Canada. But it shows you how little Trump understands economics. And that's never been so glaringly obvious as when Trump attacks Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve.
It's all because of the Fed. He's done a bad job. Now, he's got a meeting today, but I call him too late. You know, he's always too late. Right now, there's no inflation.
But there is inflation, and that's the very nature of a tariff. See, this is what the Fed does. Banks borrow money from other banks to offset what they lend, and the interest rate for those loans is determined by the Fed. A lower rate would cause more people to borrow, and thus more people would have money to buy these homes, and that means more demand, and more demand means higher prices. But not according to the brainiacs at Fox.
Yeah. I want to push back on that. I think this is more about the Federal Reserve. Again, we've got a bifurcated economy. The Fed they have a regressive approach here, right? They're trying to still clamp down on this economy, but it's not working. It's hurting 70% of the folks out there. Look at delinquencies. Look at all of the things that are hurting the average household, I think, and also small businesses. Coming into this year, the biggest question was, how would they even refinance? We're talking about financing government debt. How do we help the small businesses out there? There are two economies. The Fed's looking at the wealthiest folks out there.
What the hell did that guy just say? Inflation doesn't hurt billionaires. It hurts the little guy. You want the Fed to lower rates? Quit fucking around with tariffs.
Tariffs are going to go up, and then there's going to be a delay in the tariffs, and then there's going to be a tariff on another country, and it's been up and down and up and down. And by the way, the stock market went up and down with these things. I think that the president's emphasis on tariffs right now is misguided.
And finally, the biggest lie is that these tariffs will bring American businesses back to the U.S. Look, Nike has never made and never will make a sneaker in the U.S. And Apple's not going to make phones and computers here either, because we don't do that anymore. We're not a manufacturing country, and that ain't going to change. And the farm workers Trump is deporting, you think your 20-year-old snotty brat of a kid is going to pick strawberries for $2 an hour, 6 days a week? Trump is tanking not just our economy, he's doing it for a reason. It's not about jobs or the stock market or inflation. He just wants you to look over here, because over here, well, it's not too good for him.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
It's sitting on my desk.
Goddamn right.
It's sitting on my desk.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Trump admitted he knew Epstein for 15 years.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Do you have no shame?
Are you not entertained? They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Jeffrey Epstein? I could be a stupid person.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.